Hello and welcome to Sit with Britt, a podcast show where we take a deep dive into the minds of the industry's most finest talents. I'm your host, Brittany, and we got a real treat for you today. Today, we're sitting with the one, the only, amazing Ghanz, aka Ghanz Grooves, the musical genius behind the upcoming movie, The Port. So get ready to be inspired because this conversation is about to be as epic as Ghanz's compositions. So settle in and let's get into it. So hello, Ghanz, how are you?
What's good, Brittany? How you doing?
Good, thanks. It's great to have you.
Thanks.
Now, of course, we are going to get into the musical genius behind The Port in a moment. But first, let's get to know who Ghanz is. You know, can you start by telling us about yourself and how you got into the music business?
Music was in my family from a young child. My mother in church was always around music. And, you know, she trying to force me to sing. I hated singing. So I started playing the drums. So that was the first step, learning like percussions and stuff like that. In school, my favorite field trip was the symphony orchestra. I was really inspired by the violins, and that just used to blow me away. My mom's had a grand piano, and so I started practicing on that. Didn't have any formal lessons, but just from hearing what I heard on those field trips, I used to take the, you know, I'm telling my age, but back then we had the Memorex tapes and tape recorders that you would record some 60-minute tape. I would just create compositions, not knowing really what I was doing, but I just wanted to hear myself back. So that was kind of like the start of everything. And then fast forward to like high school years, freshman in high school, my uncle was the one who kind of told me to teach myself how to produce, because I had a rap group, but we didn't have any music. So he took me to a music store, bought my first keyboard. It was a nice one too. It wasn't the cheap Casio that everybody had back in the day. It was actually it was a nice Yamaha, and I was so excited, and I started teaching myself from there, you know, so that's kind of my start.
Nice, real nice. So you almost have you can do like a perfect pitch in a sense. Like you can just hear it and you'll know. That is amazing.
Yeah.
How would you, so being able to, you know, learn to play the piano, the keyboard yourself, learning different chords and all that type of stuff, what would you say your musical style is?
Good question. It has evolved over the years. Funny thing is, you know, I produce heavily R&B now, probably more so than I even do hip hop. But, you know, in my teenage years, I hated R&B. You know,
what?
Yeah,
R&B's the best.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the sounds they were using. So I used to make fun of other guys who were making beats using like R&B keyboards, stuff like that. So back then I had like an aggressive, soulful sound. And then it evolved over the years and became a little bit more musical. Now, I mean, it's pretty much, I'm the type of composer that tries to bring out the best in the artist or the film that I'm working with. Opposed to making it sound like me, I try to create something with them that's unique and different.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You kind of like study the vibe and you're like, you know, this seems like it would fit. Okay. So with that, that's definitely like a challenge within itself, because if you're doing a film and you're adding the music, you have to fit the vibe and the energy. So what challenges have you faced along the way that you would say has helped shape you as an artist to where you can where it becomes more easier for you to make that decision?
I don't know if it's become easier. It's just the process. Especially in film, from what I've encountered, most directors and producers, they don't necessarily have the vision of the music in mind. They have it, but they don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it's like when I ask them, well, what do you want it to sound like? The common answer is usually either just do you, or I know it when I hear it, you know.
Oh, yeah, because they got the story already in mind. Then, yeah, I don't even think about
but
the music.
film has a color, right? It's like when you're filming it, there's certain sounds that help bring out the color of the film. You know, like what I'm looking for usually when I ask that question is like, do you want the film to have like a romantic type of vibe or a dramatic type of vibe with maybe the lead instrumentation being the cello or the viola, you know? Or is it going to be something that's going to be more sympathy driven, you know, more sad, and you want the lead instruments to be like piano driven, and then that everything kind of like backs that up. So those are some of the things. Or do we go analog? You know, there was a film that I did 3 years ago, and the producer said to me, he says he wants his music to sound like Too Short meets Stranger Things. Right, and that's how I looked. That's how I looked when he said that. So I had to. So that was a challenge. I had to sit back because other than that, he couldn't really tell me what he meant because he wasn't a musician. And so I looked at the similarities between the two. You know, Too Short, when he came on to the scene, he was using a lot of analog gear to produce his music. Stranger Things is driven by analog synthesizers. If you go watch the TV series, that's all you're going to hear is these analog Juno keyboards and things like that. Yeah. And it creates that vibe. So I said using those type of sounds would get me the similarities between the two. Then I just had to gap the style of the music that's going to be played with those sounds. So
it's just like you're finding the common theme within and then mixing them together, and it just becomes like almost like a new genre.
Yeah, it's to me, the way I approach music is formulas. Everything's formula, and you come up with that formula, and once you have it and it's locked, then you can create some amazing music from there.
I bet. I like when you were saying with the piano and like with the cello, like pretty much they're like the main, like the front singer, and then everybody follows
and everybody's
the
the background. Yeah, so you can have all other types of instruments, but what's going to be the main thing, you know, that's going to carry where people can kind of identify. Whereas if they see another film, they might even say, "Oh, that film sounds like this." Yeah, you know. Or if you got a song, you know, you have sometimes you hear songs, you know, "Oh, their music, that album sounded like so-and-so's album," you know.
Yeah, because, you know, I know one of them. I'm always comparing.
Right.
So being the composer for the upcoming film, The Port, can you tell us what your creative process was with that project?
First, you know, the producer and director, you know, everyone calls him Ghani Vision. I think he's just super incredible, you know, as far as his vision and things like that. And his standard is super high. Like if you're going to be part of his team, you got to be elite. Yeah. So the first thing was raising the bar to meet that requirement. From there, once it was a matter of finding, remember I was saying earlier about the color. Yeah. I had to find the color of the film, you know. And so we went through a process of sound selections, and he was, "No, I don't like that. No, not that. Almost. You know, I want something like this." And that was a whole process that took a few weeks really to get the sound. And then once I got the right sounds that he liked, the composing the music became easy from that part, you know.
Kind of like you had to find a theme first, given the scenario, the situation.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, because, you know, you want your film to have a unique sound. You know, that's the problem with like a lot of filmmakers who use like stock footage, or they go to websites like Artlist and things like that. Your film's going to sound like everybody else. It's not going to have a unique sound. It's going to sound generic.
inconvenient.
Yeah, you know, so it's like, it's a difference when you go to a theater or if you're sitting in your home and you're watching a movie and the acting is good and the cinematography is great and the story is great and the music just complements that and it just takes you to another place.
Where you can feel it.
Where you can feel it.
Get those goosebumps.
So my thing is, I want to take the listener or the watcher, the viewer, to another place, you know, like they're diving into this world of film where they can forget about the problems of the day, the problems of the world, and they're actually in a whole nother world, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, the approach and the goal every time to do that.
To involve them more into the film. I cannot tell you how many times music really, like within a film, hits me to where like, you know, everybody acts like they have their own main character scenario and stuff. But then what helps is music from different films given the scene. I know I apply it to my life. If I'm sad or heartbroken, I'm playing that song. That's going to make me sad and heartbroken. I remember this scene. I related to it. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I see. Oh, my gosh. That is awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
So are there any specific, like, themes or like motifs in the port that you focused on while composing the music?
Specific themes. I don't know necessarily a specific overall theme. I guess each particular scene individually, I think, had an objective because the port is about a whole bunch of conversations. The connection with different relationships between people and how they connect to other relationships. And so my approach when watching each particular scene is, what is the message that's being given here? And what is the future direction going to? So from there, it helps guide me to the direction of how to compose the music.
I like that. I learned when I was in school for acting. What you said kind of reminds me of with character building. You have to have an objective. How are you going to approach it? What do you want to get out of it? I never would have put that into thought when it comes to like the composition of music in a film. That's amazing. Now, how do you approach composing music for a film compared to composing music for like standalone tracks to an album?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So for music production, I would say it's a little bit more simpler because you're just really just trying to create a vibe, you know. So whatever the vibe might be. So let's say if it's a R&B track and the artist says, you know, I want some sexy bedroom type music or whatever like that. Then the elements of the music and stuff, and there's certain sounds that help achieve that, like lead synths are real good at creating a sexy vibe. Pianos are real good at create a sexy vibe. Synth basses or 808s are real good at creating that vibe. And then tempos around maybe 85 to 93 beats per minute. So knowing that too will create that vibe. And once you kind of got the foundation for the track, then it's just about the melody of the singing that goes with it. And it's, you know, boom, it's there. You can do that pretty easily. I would say film is different and more complicated because it's not as easy as just, you know, taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes to make a beat and then somebody sing to it and you just chop it up and arrange it. Film has different movements within a scene. So you could have a 3-minute scene, but it might move 6 to 8 times in that scene. Like for instance, you know, the scene could start off 2 people talking, right? So, you know, it may not be even no score on there, or it might be something real just mild and atmospheric backing it up. And then the conversation could shift to, what did you just say? And it could start to build a little bit tense, but not all out tense, right? And so now you got a little bit of drama that you got to back that up. And then the scene could go from mild to mildly tense to a full-blown argument, right? And then within a full-blown argument, it could turn violent. and they could get the fighting or something like that. And then other people could come into the room and it could be all like, oh, you know, chaos. And then somebody could come in and they're the peacemaker. Everybody calm down, everybody calm down. So then that's another shift. And then if they achieve getting everybody to calm down, you went from mild to mildly drama to chaotic to, okay, slow back down to all the way back calm again. And so the challenge as a composer is you have to pinpoint every time the film does that. And you have to hit it on a dime, because if you miss, it's going to feel weird to the viewer.
Now, is it like is it all like one just composed sound, like song mixed together? Or is it just like, okay, like something romantic, soft, mellow, then what did you just say? Then that's a lot.
It's by sections. So like for me, I don't know anybody else's process, but for me, for a longer scene, like I said, 3 minutes or longer, I watch the scene, I make notes of when everything shifts. And so I know, okay, this a different part, this a different part, this different part. So now it's about the sound selection to pull that off. You know, what sounds can make the viewer feel what's going on in the scene. So I put them all in a pot. Some stuff I might not even use, but I just put a bunch of sounds together, and then I just go section by section. Nice. Until I'm watching it myself and I feel what I interpreted.
Yeah.
Just like if you mentioned about something sad. So if it is a sad scene, I dang near work on the music until I feel like I'm gonna cry myself. And if it doesn't make me feel like I'm gonna cry myself, then it's not good enough, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Or if it's something angry, if it, you know, I need to be hyped. You know, you ever watch like the Avenger films? Mm-hmm. I love the Avenger films because when they get to fighting and stuff, the music always gets you hamped up. It's like your adrenaline starts.
Yeah, I was like, yo, let me be one.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it make you want to, you know, shoot, when I leave here, who wants some, you know? And so watching films like that, you know, that's the approach. It's like you got to help the film along. Because imagine, go back to the sad scene, a sad scene where something happens, but there's no music. You probably won't feel it the same. You wouldn't. I'm not probably. You won't. You won't cry. You won't.
Yeah.
You know. You just to be like, okay, sad scene. But when it's the right music, and it's and it's not even where it's so far in the front. It's kind of in the background, but you feel it enough to go with the acting. That next thing you know, you're like, why am I feeling this way? I'm about to cry over this movie. And,
yeah.
And that's when you know the composer did his job.
Yeah, music to me, music is important because I know with myself, if I see like a sad scene and say I relate to it, that's one check. Then I'm like, okay, I'm feeling something. Then the music starts. And it's always when the music starts that's like, boom, and you're like, oh my gosh. You feel it. It's like an overall, like, feel it.
It's funny, you know, coming from church too. Gospel, you know, Baptist. So, you know, the preacher could be preaching and he could say, and God and Jesus rose up and from the grave, right? He could say that, right? And that's cool, you know, yeah, you know, amen. But then when the organist, you know, right. When he do that, then people start falling out. Whoa!
Yes,
it's just something about the music that just helps bring the rest out. And so that's my background. So I remember that, you know.
And church is a good place where you do feel the music. You just close your eyes, you put your hands up, and you're just like taking it all in. That is a good place to start at. So can you tell us who you've worked with in the past? We have your creative magic in the port. But what other projects or artists have you worked with?
Oh, in the past, I've done work with artists like recently. Let's use my little bro for example, who's a talented producer of his own right, Dre Butters. He has a project coming out, and I did 2 or 3 songs on that, and he had another single come out last year called Complicated that was received real well. I did some production work recently for Sino, who's also like an actor. Now he's in the McGraw Ave series. And then I have a record label So I have my artist Carmen Michelle, did some music for her. My partner in music, McKinley the Black Knight, who's a dope R&B singer, and we actually have 4 projects coming out like back to back this summer.
Oh, nice.
Just really gonna, give the ladies something to really enjoy.
Yes.
Some music. Yeah, it's called Talk to Her. It's like a series. It's like, yeah, Talk to Her. So it's going to be amazing. In the past, did some work with D12, Bazaar, Elzai, worked with him. Who, if you don't know Elzai, he ended up being part of Slum Village. Proof was a good friend of mine before he passed away from D12. Did some work with him. Guys like Undertaker. I mean, you name it. Just coming up.
I want to follow back to the Proof part because I saw that he said his top, like the top producers that he would put out there was like, for right now, Dr. Dre, and there was a couple other people, and then you. And he said not even necessarily in that order. Right. Now, to me, to even be mentioned in the lines with Dr. Dre is incredible.
Right, it is.
How did you feel about that?
When I heard he said it, I thought it was, it was cap.
How would you think that?
Cause that's like you said, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
And the people that he mentioned was Dr. Dre at the time. This was Dr. Dre, it was Pete Rock, Jay Dilla, and then myself. And I looked up to Pete Rock and Dre. And then Jay Dilla was like a contemporary of mine. So we kind of both were figuring out music at the same time when we were like 16, 17, playing tracks for each other over the phone.
Nice.
Yeah. Proof actually introduced me to Jay Dilla. So that's how I met him. And we, but just to have that be spoken of that, especially when I'm not yet one of those guys who has a mainstream name, and all those other 3 were. It just was a big compliment to me. And then when I asked him, I said, "Did you really say that?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Not in that order," and he just kind of winked at me, so yeah.
That's really cool. That is mad cool. Now, what do you hope audiences will take away, from the music from the port?
Oh, wow. I want them to, first of all, the way the film looks is so breathtaking and phenomenal, right? So they're already going to be blown by that. That sets the bar so high, right? The story in itself is very interesting with these different families and how they connect together. So that's going to engage them. So I want the music to just be the icing on the cake where they're just blown away. The cinematic experience that they have from watching this film takes them to a place where from the day after they watch it, anything lesser, it just upsets them. It's like, oh, this is not, Have you ever did that? Like where you listen to an amazing album and then, you're listening to this album for like a week or 2 and then somebody tells you, oh, check this out. It just came out. And it's not even nowhere near close. It like irritates you because you have a certain standard you done got your ears used to. And now it's dropping down. I can't even drop it back down. And so
I got to get goosebumps.
Right. So, what myself and Ghanz, what we are going to do, it's not even a try. What we are going to do is we're going to take the cinematic experience to a whole nother level. It's going to be a whole nother level. And, we coming. And the music that my part, I'm working on music for part 2 now, getting ready to raise the bar even higher where it's just going to be like, man, like how them guys come up with that, You
look excited for that new challenge.
Yeah.
You seem like the type of person that's like, okay, I got this done. Now, how can I do it but better?
I got to be better. you know, it has to be better. It has to be 10 times better. Always pushing myself. Because once I get to the point where I'm not growing, I get bored with it, you know. And, you know, working with Ghanz, he's one that pushes me to greatness, you know. I mean, really, because most film producers that I've worked with, you know, I'm always weary about the person who always says, yeah, that's great. I need you to tell me something's bad so I could trust that when you say it's great, I know that it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not a sensitive person, so you know, as a film composer, you have to have tough skin, you know. And one of the funniest things is in the process of working on the port, Ghanz actually told me that the music was making his speakers sound raggedy. You know, and you know, no one has ever said that to me about no music, you know, but I didn't get upset or anything like that. I just had to work harder,
Yeah,
to meet that standard. And now he done created a monster. That's how I feel like it's up from here, you know. Yeah.
We got to put the pieces together to be that big old transformer and just take over the world. Nice. Now, who, with all the music, with all the projects and all that, and the way you express how passionate you are, which is clear as day, and the work proves it too, who are some of your musical influences, and, you know, how have they impacted your work?
Well, are you talking music production or film? Because that would be two different.
I guess we could do both.
Music production, honestly, really everybody. I couldn't really say my influences came from just one or two people, even though if you want to start from the very beginning, you know, Bomb Squad, they used to do a lot of Public Enemy stuff. They did Ice Cube's first album, solo album. They were a heavy influence on me because I like them because their lack of fear of using different sounds. You know, Dr. Dre, not necessarily for his composing of beats, but his ear as far as how it sounds when it's the finished product. You know, Dre is known to be like sonically one of the best as far as mixing and just how it comes out when it's done, you know, or making sure the artist does their best performance. So him from that aspect, but I mean, it's so many people, Pete Rock, Marley Marl, Q-Tip from Quest, you know, they back then with them, Rick Rubin with the Run DMC in the early LL Cool J. I mean, every era I think helped mold me to be able to do music in multiple styles and genres today. You know, all those guys. Now, when it comes to film, real quick, and then when it comes to R&B, guys like Teddy Riley, Devontae Swing, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, those guys influenced me too. Film, I don't have as many influences. It's just really just what I feel, but composers that I would say inspire me now, like when I see their movies, I'm like, ooh, I got to get back, you know. I would say Ludwig Göransson. I think he's the best right now. Hans Zimmer is, you know, you guys know him. He just did the new Dune and, you know, Gladiator, you know, from that. And then there's a guy called Erwin Kermovat, who's a Spanish composer who does a lot of, you get into the Spanish films, he's done a lot of them, and he's into like the drama stuff. And he was ironically, Erwin, I would say, was a big influence on the creation of the music for the port. His style and vibe, like the sounds, when I was watching some of his stuff, you know, I was gathering information like that could be useful, that could be useful. Yeah.
Good guiding. So, you mentioned that you have, we're gonna skip that. Okay, so finally, well, do you have any advice that you want to give any aspiring music directors, composers that are looking to break into the industry? Any tips and tricks or things to avoid?
Music composers, ask yourself why you're doing it. And then once you ask yourself why you're doing it, make sure you love it. Because it's a lot of hours, you know, doing film, you know. Like I said, film is more intense than producing music. You know, I think on the port, I probably spent 130 hours.
Did you have to like take a break every now and then? You know, when you hear it over and over again, you're like, hold on, I got to separate.
You got deadlines, so you really can't take a break. Oh. You know, you can't say I'm take 2-3 days off, I'm relax. You have to just grind, you know, 8-10 hours a day.
So how do you separate yourself from the repetitive to where it sounds the same to where you can still maintain keeping the difference of the music? Because if you're listening to it over again for like say one scene, to me, I would think myself, okay, I heard this over and over, I gotta take a break. But you don't. That's a skill within itself. How do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, being repetitive, like I said, I get bored, so that's never really a issue because I'm always, you know, I did one scene one way, then the next scene is going to call for something different. It's not like it would be lazy to just say, okay, I got this vibe going, so I'm gonna just do 2 or 3 more scenes like that because I already got the sound. So there's just, you know, each scene has got to be its own thing, you know. So I would just say that, love it, because if you love it, then the hours and the challenge won't be a problem. Study your craft, studying it, like be a student of music. When when you go watch films, don't just watch them just to enjoy the film, but do the film, like look at, okay, why did they use those type of drums right there? Like, did it achieve its goals? Like, what was the direction that they were trying to do? And then lastly, I would say, have tough skin. Don't be a sensitive guy. Like, you want the director, producer to be happy. And, you know, when you're doing we call them draft cues. So when you get a scene, you send it to the producer. It's called a cue. He can accept it or he can reject it. And if reject, you have to redo it. You might have to redo a cue 10 times before it gets accepted.
Yeah, you know? So you do have to have tough skin.
Yeah, so as you know, music producers, they'll say, this is all I got. You know, these my beats, you like them or not, you know.
Yeah.
But as a film composer, you can't have that attitude. Yeah,
where someone can go in and be like, this is what I have, pick what I got from the catalog. Yeah. But it's like film, it's like, okay, I got to really make sure this puzzle piece fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never paid attention to the complexities of that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that.
You're welcome.
And helping us understand more on how important music really is within the film. And it's going to be amazing to see your work on the port.
Thank you.
So can you tell the audience how we can find you, where we can listen to you?
Well, if you want to follow me on socials, it's Ghanz, which is spelled GHANZ _ Grooves, GROOVES _ 314.
All right.
So you follow me on that, and it kind of connects to everything else.
Cool. Well, that's great. It was great having you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. And I hope we get to have this conversation again soon, especially with your upcoming project. So that'll be great.
Yes.
So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Will be it for Sit with Britt. We had Ghanz, a.k.a. Ghanz Grooves, come in. He was the musical composer to the upcoming film, The Port. Can't wait to see that. And we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.